which is not fun. So we are live. I'm also gonna send tweet is going out now. So I don't know if I told you this, but for render, I am really hoping I make it, but my wife is pregnant and due May 22nd. And
Oh,
so it all kind of comes down to like when exactly we have the baby. So we'll see.
oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's getting like much closer. So we're getting more and more excited. Um but yeah, we'll have to see how render plays out, but I'm really hoping I can make it at least for like a day or two. If not like the whole thing.
How far is it from you?
So I'm in Memphis, so it's only like 5 hours or so, 5 6. So it's not that far. The flight is an hour and there's flights almost every hour of the day from Memphis to Atlanta and vice versa. So that is super helpful.
Do they have trains from Memphis to Atlanta? Weird.
I don't know. I haven't done I haven't done any trains out of Memphis, I don't think. Like I did a lot when I lived in the Northeast,
Mhm,
but not in the Southeast.
mhm, yeah, I guess we don't have the infrastructure for that. I love it. I love trains, so
Yeah. I love the idea of trains.
yeah.
Um I love being able to not have to like focus on drive. You can do other things. You can read, listen to podcasts or whatever. So,
Yeah, and then you
um,
can get there 15 minutes before the train leaves instead of like a
mhm.
plane, you can get there like 2 hours
Oh
before.
yeah, yep, definitely. Got a few people joining us on YouTube. Lucky, hello. Wesley, hello. Lucky asked about topics. So this topic is making passive income in tech, like making money on the side, and then eventually, I think for both of us is like turning those things into full time careers. Which, like, I remember talking to you about this before I went full time. And
Mhm.
anyone that had done that, made that transition in the past is like super inspiring for me. Like just the idea of you can own something completely yourself and turn that into a business is pretty amazing. So I get excited about it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's like I feel like there's this surge of people who
mhm,
really want to do it now, and so I'm like, I don't know, that gets me really excited because they're kind of saying the same things that both of us have said about like, oh, you want to spend more time with your family, you want to have like more balance
mhm,
and all these things, and like I think most people kind of want that, so I'm excited to talk about it.
absolutely. Felipe says congrats on the baby. Really pumped about the topic. Same, and the baby is actually like a big factor in this. So I gave a talk. It's a conference called That Conference in January, and that was
Mhm.
one of the things that I talked about with like thinking about happiness in my career.
Yeah.
That changes a little bit when you think about having a child and how that being a priority is important. So that's the thing that like is always my number one priority is work life balance. So it certainly plays out well for me in what I'm doing now. Um, Eli said he got a notification from Twitch and then came to YouTube to watch. Fair enough. And then Luke has joined from our Learn Build Teach Discord. Welcome everyone. If we've got a few people here, we'll have our chat. You got some questions. I'll ask you some questions. We'll kind of go back and forth. And then also for people that are hanging out watching, if you have questions, if you want to know, Bria and I were talking about this beforehand, both super open, both happy to answer kind of any questions that people want about hours or money or what we do or what it's like, what we don't like, maybe. So if you have questions, just throw those in the chat and I will bring them up for us to talk about as well. But I guess this initially started. So we got to meet last year at Render, which is like one of the best conference experiences I've had ever. And I've been to a lot of conferences and I like absolutely loved it. But you reached out in like preparation for your upcoming talk at Render, which is kind of about the same topic. So this is just a space for us to kind of talk about it. You're getting insights, I think, from a lot of different people. And I figured it'd be a cool, valuable thing for people that are like in the community to kind of hear the back and forth conversation as well. So do you want to introduce yourself? Welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about your background and we can kind of go from there?
Sure. So I'm Bria. On TikTok, I'm known as Boba Bria, but I make mobile games about boba or bubble tea. And I'm a software engineer by trade. I've been a software engineer since 2010. I was a like before quitting and deciding to do this full time, I was a software engineer at Google for almost 5 years. And what else? I'm like, it's kind of like the same. So it's just the spiel. I was
Hmm.
like I was ready to leave, and I knew nothing about games, but I just knew that I wanted to make a game that I like, and I just got the inspiration to do it and quit my job, and I've been learning ever since.
So cool. And I was looking down for a second because I grabbed my phone
Mhm.
and went to TikTok, and I did not realize that you had a TikTok account that I just followed.
Yeah.
So excited to watch that, and over 100,000 followers, which is pretty amazing. That is super cool. Um, oh, so yeah, actually, just context for the boba part. So I've actually never had
Mhm.
boba tea.
Yeah.
But for people who maybe like, I think I at least know of it. But what is boba tea for people who haven't heard of it before?
Yeah, it's like just tea. Usually it's like a milk tea and it's sweet. And they put these tapioca balls at the bottom or like fruit flavored jelly at the bottom of the drinks. It's just kind of like a fun, sugary drink that people like to do together. And so I was like, I want to make a game that makes people feel the same way as drinking this drink. Yeah, and it's like it's kind of taken over, or it's like had such a boom. It was a very niche thing that they only really
Mhm.
had in Asian communities in California, but it's just slowly grown more and more, and now it's like almost every state has it now, and there's just like a culture around it.
I remember feeling in high school like kind of left out because people were really into it and I like had no idea what it was and I still
Yeah.
haven't tried it. So I am now officially inspired to go and try
Yeah.
it. I will let you know after my first time what I thought about
Yeah, if you like really sweet fruit tea like fruity
it. Hmm.
things, I would recommend getting a fruit tea with, like, a jelly inside.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you like, if you're a frappuccino kinda person, I would lean more towards, like, a milk tea with boba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. The thing I think is like most inspiring about being a developer, like most motivating is kind of exactly what your story is, which is like as a developer, you have the ability to basically kind of build anything to solve any sort of problem or like add any sort of value. Like there's obviously like differences of like physical things that you can contribute to the world, but so much is software. And that's like the epitome, I think, of being a developer is you can like see a problem or a need or a niche or just something you're excited about and go out and build
Mhm.
it. And I wanted to clarify, like you said before leaving your job to do this full time, had you not done any game development before leaving, or you done a little bit before? So you hadn't done any before that.
None at
Wow.
all. Like, I quit in the or I did, like, my first 2 months of just a couple hours a week playing around with Unity, and then I'm like, "I'll figure it out." Like, I'm just gonna quit. I'll figure it out.
Oh, it's so amazing. And that's also like the other thing that stands out to me most about being a developer is how it is a very difficult thing to learn. It's a very difficult thing to get good at. It's a very difficult thing to turn it into a business like you've done. But
Mhm.
the resources are there. Like if you want to learn anything, honestly, at all on YouTube, you absolutely can. And you can't see the whole
Mhm.
thing and it's not gonna like do it justice. But this is a faux electric fireplace that I built completely from scratch, all from YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So I want to like embrace the brand. Like if I can do this, you
Mhm.
can learn web development. Not you, like just people in
Yeah.
general. But you know,
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't have to take a course for it. I think that what I like about, as you said, just computer science and developing, there's so many resources now that you can kinda just figure as long as you're good at breaking down problems, you can probably, like, patch your way there with just
mhm,
YouTube videos.
yep.
Um, yeah, I've had the privilege of being able to meet almost every YouTube creator that I've learned from.
Oh, amazing. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, building I build in public, and it just attracted some people at Unity, and then they were like, "Oh, can you come to this event?" And then I got to meet, like, all the people that make the YouTube tutorials. They're all pretty young, pretty
Mhm.
wild.
Well, that's like So I talk about this in some of my talks. I say I introduce myself as a full-time content creator, and I like make the joke of like it's the most millennial thing I've ever said in my life, and it sounds ridiculous. Like to a lot of people, you
Mhm.
think of like the silly 10-year-old kid that's like, "What do you want to do?" And they say now, like, "I want to be a content creator." And we kind of brush it off, but the reality is like these are real jobs, these are real careers. And I found some sort of like stats of like how much money people that do full-time content make versus how much they work. And so one of it was like an average of 10 hours a week to make X number of dollars. And I think people from an older generation are like, oh, like how do you do that? That's like you don't work, blah blah blah. But the reality is like if I could make a lot of money and work less and have more time to live my life and like have the
Mhm.
work-life balance and focus on things that are important, like why would I not do that? And I don't think there's anyone that would like trade if you could make your same salary and work only 10 hours a week versus 40, 50, 60, 70. Like why would you not do that and have more time to just do whatever it is in life that you're interested in and care about?
Totally. Well, I saw that there's a question about passive income,
Yeah.
and I think like it might be good to define what passive income is because I think there's like this like, there's no real passive income, really, like, there's not really. Even what, a big one that people consider as passive income is, like, they own rental properties, and
Mhm.
they just have to maintain the properties, and then people pay them rent every month, right? But that's not, like, 100% passive because you still have to maintain the property, you have to manage the people, you have to, like, but you're not working 40 hours a week to earn those dollars.
So
So I found a definition by asking ChatGPT, honestly.
obviously.
Just saying that passive income is generated from assets that require upfront investment, but can
Mm,
generate income with little or no ongoing effort.
yeah, that's a good clarification. I like that.
Wow.
And
Okay.
specifically on the YouTube sense, so, coding with Shapiro is asking about getting monetized. So, for YouTube, the threshold is you have to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch time hours in the past year. That means in the past year, people in general have watched 4,000 hours worth of your content. And after that, then you get monetized where you can turn on ads, and then any new video that you create, or I guess you can add it to previous videos, you can enable ads and then make money from that. And one of the things we talked a little bit about beforehand was the idea that like we kind of assume people make a ton of money from that sort of thing. And the reality is you really don't make very much money from YouTube ads. Like it's up and down and you can at times. Like a friend of mine, this is ridiculously wild, published a ChatGPT video that went absolutely viral, and he made 20 grand in a month from ads. That's not the norm. That's like a ridiculous amount. The most I've ever made is like 3 grand in a month, which mine is much, much lower now. It's like 800. Um, but so the majority of the income doesn't come from, at least for me and other people I've seen, from ads specifically. But it is one of those things that I would consider as relatively passive because I just create content and then it's just a checkbox that I add to be able to add the support to make money off of ads.
Mhm. So I wanted to ask you, what methods of passive income do you have?
Yeah, so mine, I want more of this. So I'll give you an example of something I've done that still
Mhm.
makes some income, but not a ton. So course creation, course content is huge. It's something I'm putting a much bigger focus on now for the future to make my career as a content creator more sustainable. But I timed this like really well, not intentionally. It just happened to work out where I created my first ever course on Udemy, and it was about VS Code. And it was like a year or two after VS Code was starting to get popular. And I think it was just the first course on that topic that people were looking for. And there's some sort of program, I forget what it's called, where there's certain companies that pay for subscriptions to for their employees, which means their employees get free content out of a selection of like corporate approved content. Again, I don't know what the phrase is. And so
Mhm.
anyway, my course got picked up by that and really gave it a boost. So for 2 or 3 years, I've made about $1,000 a month off of that course. So that course is, like you said, upfront costs of creating the course. I've updated it once. It's several years old at this point, but every month it was just like another $1,000 or 1,500 sometimes just coming in, which is
Mhm.
like obviously an amazing place to be. Another one that I've done is a YouTube for developers ebook. I've made maybe 2 grand total off this. Like it was never meant to be a big moneymaker. It was actually part of a 2 week challenge where you create and ship a product of some
Mhm.
sort in 2 weeks, which I think is a great exercise for people that just want to like go through the whole flow of creating, marketing, publishing, selling, etc. And so I get an occasional sell for that. And then I've done a few other courses, but this is one of my like biggest focuses this year is to get more into premium course content to have that like big initial upfront investment, maintenance and questions and that sort of stuff along the way after. But
Mhm.
it also has the potential to make a lot more money. Like I know course creators that make millions off of courses, and I'm not necessarily like at this point targeting that, but I feel like that compared to 6 months at a regular salary, like at a job, like I have the potential. It's not guaranteed at all, but I have the potential to make more money, like scaled money that way.
Totally. I mean, one thing that I've learned, because I had a course back in the day, but it was just kind of like an MVP of it, and just like um, everything was very manual. It was like live courses. But
Mhm.
what I've learned from creating mobile games is this idea of like customer acquisition costs versus like how much that you earn from them.
Mm.
And so if you're running ads on a course, and to close a sale, if that takes you maybe like $100, but your course costs $800, it's like
Yep.
pretty good deal, right? Then you just have
Obviously,
to
yeah.
reinvest the money back into your business.
hmm And I think we'll kind of talk more about the marketing stuff. That was one of the things that you hinted at beforehand.
Mhm.
But that's definitely a no brainer. But from a marketing perspective, I've never done paid advertisements. I know nothing about it. I don't know how it works. That's one of the
Yeah,
things to potentially get into eventually and like learn more because I think it can be like if you can do the research, do the experiments, and show that like if I invest $100, I make $800. That's an absolute no brainer, right? Like if you think about
totally.
investing in the stock market, the average return is like over the last 50 years or something is like 7 to 10%, I think. So
Mhm.
if you could like 800% your return, you'd absolutely do that, like no questions asked.
Yeah, so it's like I'm still learning about this myself because all of my income and everything has been all organic,
Mhm.
or all of my marketing has been organic. But I've been trying to pay a little bit more attention to the paid, and I will get there. But right now, my game studio is just me, and well, it's just me and a contractor and two contractors who do the
Ooh,
art.
yeah,
But I am looking to hire another engineer right now. I'm spending a lot of
that's
time, and so
amazing.
that I can spend more time doing kind of like the holistic business stuff. But it has been nice. It's just been us three for the past year, and like it's been nice. So everyone is paid
That's
from that. Yeah, and none of us
that's
have to
so
work
good.
too much.
Um, I've got several questions on that
Yeah,
actually.
go for it.
Is that's one of the really interesting things for me that I'm kind of looking at now is how to work with the contractors or a team to
Mhm.
do more of the things that like I'm not the best at. So example of that is I'm not the best copywriter, I'm not the best designer, I'm not the best at a lot of things. And that's one of the things that we kind of get forced into in a fun way, but also overwhelming is like as individual content creators, we're running a business. We have to do all the things. We have to do design, we have to build landing pages, we have to do marketing, we have to do all of those things. And it is overwhelming. So you've got 2 contractors already, and then you're looking to hire like what sort of what does that look like for you time wise for them? Is this like a part-time contractor type thing?
Yeah, they're all part-time. It's the hardest is obviously hiring the engineer. It
hmm
costs the most. Um, it's the thing that I know how to do, so it's like, "Oh, I can do this," but I'm reaching a point where there are better Unity engineers than me, and I need to move faster.
hmm
Um, but initially, like, I think my first game, I made the assets. It was cute, but, I guess I didn't realize how inexpensive it is to just invest that time
hmm
a, um into finding artists that you trust. I started with
Yeah.
Fiverr. I started with Fiverr,
Yep.
and, honestly, like, the things that I took away from Google were the processes, I guess. And I created a lot of like really tight, small projects, like trial projects. Then I would just send it to like 20 people. I would hire 20
Hmm.
people and then just see how each of them behaved. And yeah, it'd be maybe a couple $100 investment. But by the end of it, I always found who I really liked working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. Like I'm willing to spend a lot of money for like what I want and need, and it's about finding the right person or right group of people for the right things, and that's not an easy thing to do. So I've done a mix of stuff on Fiverr as well. I've actually gotten like some decent results for stuff, but I wouldn't say it's that like ongoing, like we nailed it collaborative relationship that I think would be important longer term.
The people that I have done that with, honestly, it was just one person from Upwork,
Hmm.
and then she had a recommendation. She had a friend who needed a job, and they
Yeah,
both went to school together, and then I hired them both, and they work
love
they
it.
all they already work really well together, and, I think I also just had to I wouldn't say we worked together that well at first. I
Hmm.
would say that, she was just really shy, and I just had to, like, talk to her more and just ask manager questions where it's what inspires you? Like, what makes you
Hmm.
wanna do well? Like, what do you like doing stuff on your own, or do you want more direction? And I think, a lot of the time, like, I assume people want to be their own boss and they don't want someone micromanaging them. That was a not right assumption with one of the girls that works with me, and she really likes having someone say, "Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this?" So I had
Hmm.
to put those processes in place, and now it does really well.
Another example of like you're having to play manager. Like I don't know if you have
Oh my god, it's
manager experience, but like you also have to be a manager in these relationships.
yeah, it's another role. I'm wear like 20 20
Mhm.
different
Yep.
hats, unfortunately.
It's one of the cool things, but also like it's stressful to have to do all the
Mhm,
things. There's a
yeah,
couple of questions in the chat. First
okay.
from Cbid, which is Chrissy on Twitch, who's part of
Mhm,
our Discord.
mhm,
She asked, "Did Bria ever talk about how she used to work for Microsoft and left for personal reasons?"
mhm.
Is that you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did work for Microsoft. That was only for 1 year. It's hard to say other than it just wasn't a good fit. It
Hmm.
wasn't a good time. A lot of like my personal life was hell at that time, and like it's one of the unheard things that people just don't really talk about, that sometimes when there's horrible things happening in your personal life, it affects your work life.
Hmm.
And at that time, outside of my control, it was just like horrible after horrible thing. And so I ended up just like not, I was not performing well.
Hmm.
And I didn't get fired, but they're like, well, you have to get out of here. Like, we suggest you go somewhere else. And, but I was like, this is never going to happen to me again.
Hmm.
And I just studied and studied and studied and got a job at Google a couple weeks later. And then I did phenomenal at Google. So
Amazing.
it just wasn't a good fit.
Yep. I think it's such a good. We talked about this like really briefly beforehand. The idea of layoffs and people getting let go and how that's
Mhm,
happening more and more. And like obviously that was a different scenario, but the thing I want to tie back to is like you can make transitions in your career at any point. You can recognize anything that like you're struggling with. You can find help in all the different ways, whatever that is, and you can just look at like here's the things that I can improve and take on those with
mhm,
um with a desire to just make whatever that change is, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, no matter what your job is or what you think the limitations are. So
mhm.
I love that that turned into a super positive thing.
It did.
Um, Chrissy was saying that she heard you on the Code Newbies podcast, so she remembered that story and said, "Nice to see you on camera."
Oh, yay, nice. I love Saran, I believe her
Hmm.
name is.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's how you pronounce her name. Yeah, really, really great podcast. But
yeah.
thank you.
So similar, or maybe I don't know if it's similar question, but another question from Eli on YouTube.
Mhm.
How is it going from full time Google engineer to solo game dev? And I think a lot of people like still look at Fang as like this is like you made it, this is the number one thing, and
Mhm,
there's ups and downs about every different type of company, big, small, all the things that you can think of. And it
mhm.
sounded like you were just kind of ready for full time. But what were some of your thoughts on like going from full time engineered company like Google to going solo game dev?
It's it's hard to explain to someone because I think I couldn't have even explained it to myself, like, in a different time of my life. It was just, like, an inner knowing of, like, it's time. Like, I had an
Mhm.
idea of making games about bubble tea for a very long time, but I had this, like, idea in my mind that I am not a game dev, I'm not a gamer, there's no way, and then, I think just other people giving me permission to be like, if you can do this type of engineering, you can make a game, like, you can figure it out. And, just kind of taking those identifiers I had put on myself, taking them off, made it easier for me to say, "Okay, I want to make games." What I knew about the industry at the time, I never had any desire of working in the gaming industry because it just looked like these people that hated their lives a little bit. But, honestly, my transition was really good. I saved a lot of money, and it gave me the ability to transition from full-time to solo, and, I moved in with my family. I had some personal issues happening that I needed to be with my family all the time, like, more often, and, it honestly just worked out that, "Hey, I'm spending a few hours every day working on this, but I also spend a few hours every day with my grandparents, with my mom, with my siblings." Yeah, so it's like it wasn't bad. Obviously, I miss the money, like, and the perks, I will say. I miss the perks for sure, like, paying for healthcare out of pocket now is
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god." But the day to day, like, I feel like a healthier person now, and it's been 2.5, almost 3 years, like, in
Mhm.
July, it'll be 3 years for me. Yeah, it feels good on this side of things.
So good. I love it. I think I love that you touched on like you had saved money because
Mhm,
I think that's really important. There are different people at different stages of their lives and careers that have more can take more risk.
mhm,
And I've never been in a position where I could take like a ton of risk, especially when I thought about the idea of going full-time content. My wife was like, I don't know if we want to do that. And we like potentially had plans of like if we get to X number of dollars in savings, that would give me X number of months runway to like prepare for it. But the
mhm,
two things for me that made my decision much, much easier, both of which you kind of or semi touched on. One specifically that you touched on is healthcare. So she works full time at Okta, has a good salary, which helps. Also has healthcare, which helps a lot. So I don't have to eat that cost myself. And then the other thing was I had been generating income and had had more requests for sponsored content, which is where I make most of my money now. Had more requests coming in than I could actually handle. So I knew not only had I been able to generate income, I knew I would be able to generate even more just based on dedicating more time to it. And so those were the two big factors in me being comfortable going full time because you see people at different stages again can take different amounts of risk and just like
mhm.
dive in without having like generated any income leading up to it potentially. But saving money,
Yeah,
healthcare, or just knowing that you have some work like coming your way, I think are three things to really consider.
yeah. I think I had a timeline of how long that I would give
Hmm.
myself, before I'd be like, "Okay, like, this isn't working, I'm gonna go back to work." And there's sorry, I saw that someone said they never see fear. I will say I am
Yeah.
afraid all the time. Like, I'm like, I am afraid all the time. I will just say that, you have to kind of push past that fear and make sure that you, recognize that your potential is always bigger than your fear.
Hmm.
But,
Yeah.
like, the other thing, what I wanted to mention is that, like, my it was it felt like the only time like, timing is really everything. It
Yeah.
just felt like the right time for me. My mom had just, she was the main income earner, of her, like our family unit, and then she all of a sudden like lost that like ability, and but she wasn't out of money, like she wasn't going to run out of money. So I felt like as a caretaker or just like an oldest sister in my family, I'm like, well, I better do the risk now when no one's out of money yet, until, and not
Yep.
wait until when everyone is like, oh no, like like people are in dire need or something like that. So that was another kind of timing thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I need to get caught up on Twitch because I make this mistake where I just am in StreamYard and I wasn't in the Twitch dashboard. And Shaw256 said there was a raid. Unfortunately, this makes me really sad. I can't see who the raid was from. Can you let me know who the raid was from? And I have the Twitch like link open now, so I will be able to see it in the future. And I'm
Mhm.
annoyed that it doesn't show me previous. But if you can let me know who the raid was from, then I will give our appreciation for the raid. Um, to Brad's comment about entrepreneurs or deep risk takers and never see fear. I think like there's obviously again varying amounts of risk that people can take, but I think people also make very calculated risk decisions. Like they make the decision to know I can handle this amount of risk with the potential of this reward. So I would say like I wouldn't think they never see fear. I would say that like it's a calculated decision based on a lot of things.
Um, I have some questions about passive income.
Yeah.
Um, can yeah, can I ask a couple of those?
Yeah, let me give a shout out because I just got the answers to my question. The raid was from Jason Langsdorf. So
Oh,
thank you,
Jason.
Jason. Yes. Welcome, Jason, for people that joined us in the raid from Jason's channel. We're talking about making passive income in tech. Brie and I both do content slash, in your case, game development now full time for ourselves.
Mhm.
And so we're just kind of having a conversation about anything and everything related to that. So if you have questions, just throw those into the chat and we'll try to get them addressed. But thanks, Jason, for the raid.
Um, the I guess like this kind of ties to what we've been talking about, but like why is having like passive income important to you?
Um, I mean, the cliche is like making money while you sleep, right? Which is a really good feeling.
Mhm.
I think maybe for me, it's when I specifically for me, when I look at course content, I look at like the impact that a course can have on people's careers. And I go back to like there's one particular one when I was learning web development, which is the Web Developer Bootcamp by Colt Steele on Udemy. It's the course literally changed my life and got me interested in web development. And it's the reason why I do the type of development that I do today. It's the reason why I love it. It's the reason for so many different things. And so I look at course content and I love, you'll hear me talk about this a lot. Like all of my stuff starts from a place of providing value to people. And so free YouTube content, a lot of value there on one off stuff, but a package course I think provides this like next level of structure and value to people. And again, like I want to be fully transparent. Like I also have goals of making millions of dollars off of courses. Like first comes value, and that's the reason that people pay for it. But I think for me, like you look at scalability of income. If you're working on an hourly basis, you can only make whatever that hourly rate is times like 24 hours a day if you worked every hour. Like, so if you break that down to like reasonable hours, and you worked really hard, 12 hours a day or like whatever it is you're comfortable with, that's the most amount of money that you can make. For all of this other stuff, like creating courses, again, personal example for me, there's the scalability of like the better this does, which has a lot of different factors, the more money I make, which doesn't necessarily mean that I work harder. So I'm always fully transparent of like when I create content, it comes from a place first of like wanting to provide value for people, but also up there is like I want to make millions of dollars doing this. Like I don't think that's something people should shy away from saying is that they want to make money as long as their intent first and foremost
Mhm.
and is value for people and it shows through the content that they create.
Ooh, totally. I feel like that, yeah, that I understand that because I've met so many people, obviously, in a lot of these spaces talking about money. If you talk or if you lead with money, it will attract people who want to just do something,
Mhm.
and their number one intention is making money.
Yep.
And I will say, every time I've approached anything that way, it has never worked out.
Mhm.
It's more that like money is the byproduct of what
Yep.
your initial intention is. I mean, like, I would say for me, it's important to me because I want to be the mother that I want to be, like, when I have kids. I there's just a type of mother that I would really like to be, would require that I do not work the amount of hours that, like, I was working at, like, a Google or any other 9
Mhm.
to 5. And, I want to be able to have income and have all of these things in place for when I do have children that, like, I can give them that time, and
Mhm.
I'm not, like, having to negotiate between my work and, the time I wanna spend with my kids, so,
Yep. This
yeah.
is one of my worst fears. It's not as realistic as a fear now, I think, for where I am in my career, but one of
Mhm,
the things that makes me the most sad when hearing other people talk about balance, work-life balance, families, jobs, and
mhm,
stuff is hearing people have to make decisions of whether or not they'll be able to attend a birthday party, a reunion, a recital for a child, like having to make those decisions based on how many vacation days you have. And obviously, like there's a limit, you have to work, but like having not being able to go to one of those things because you're out of vacation days is like I get super passionate about it, but also just makes me stupidly sad to think about the limitations. And understandably, like this is where probably a lot of people that are in the chat right now like have limited number of vacation days. This is 99% of the world. I totally get it. But
mhm,
having to make those decisions based on that and not being able to do all the family things that are important to you
mhm.
scares me and just makes me like frustrated at like that's just kind of the status quo at a lot of different places of you're just out of vacation days. And that just
Yeah.
really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I've totally been tempted to go back to working full time because, like, the, salary that I had before
Mhm.
is alluring, like, it is alluring,
Absolutely.
but, it's also I get snapped back to reality when obviously, I have a ton of friends who still work there, when they're like, "Oh, I can't attend this thing, I don't have enough vacation days." I was like, "Oh, yeah, vacation days, I completely forgot about
Yep.
that."
And again, like I wanna anytime I like call that out, I also wanna acknowledge like
Mhm,
I/we in this case are like in a privileged position to not have to work, like not have to work around that, like not have to deal with
true.
that.
Mhm,
Cause that is like most people have limited number of vacation days and have to make those sort of decisions. But it's still just like frustrating for me regardless that that sort of
yeah.
limitation is out there.
Yeah, I want to, like, ask a little bit about your skills and if, like, your how important is being a good engineer to creating your passive income streams? Like, would they be the exact same if you were an excellent engineer versus a good engineer?
Yeah, I don't think I guess first, like, how do I characterize myself as an engineer? That's my
Mhm.
wife, by the way. Say hi,
Hi.
Jess. We're in this like very big transition period getting ready for baby where we've got projects going on in the other half of our house. So we're
Mhm.
literally in our front room, like both of us with the rest of our stuff for our entire house behind me. So that's like
Mhm.
the context of what's going on here. Um, so how do I characterize myself as an engineer? Like in some ways I wanna like tell people I think I'm really smart. And I think I'm a smart person, like fine. But and my wife is not questioning me in the background. But the
Mhm.
difference is like really a lot of it comes down to experience. And so I started my career at Microsoft where I was doing evangelism and didn't have engineering experience. I went to college for CS, didn't learn the things that I like should have, honestly. So I wasn't a good engineer coming out. I didn't get engineering experience, like real engineering experience at Microsoft. I did engineering like full time at FedEx, which was a game changer for me and like upping my technical capabilities. And then I went back to developer advocacy at Auth0, Planet Scale, and now content creation. So as much as I want to think like I'm a good engineer, I'm probably like average engineer just because I don't have like that many more years of professional engineering experience. But the interesting thing about teaching other people, whether it be like you can teach people on Twitter, you can teach people talking at a conference, you can teach people on YouTube videos, you can teach people in a lot of ways. The interesting thing about that is you don't have to know more than the audience. You just have to know more about this one thing than the audience for that specific thing. And that's why it's so important to define your audience for content that you create so you set expectations. So would I be able to like make more passive income or would I be a better content creator or would I make more money in general if I was a better engineer? I don't really think so because I don't think the money is in super 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 technical content, although you could argue like going in and giving like really deep, intense workshops at companies, for example, like that could be a really high paying thing. Also, giving introductory workshops at a company could be a high paying thing. So for me personally, I don't think me being a significantly better or excellent engineer would like change what and how I'm doing and what I'm earning,
Mhm.
or the value that I provide for the most part drastically. Like certain certain things I could have deeper conversations on, but for the most part, like that's just not the level of content that I create and target.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I have had some frustration with like, okay, I kind of got past the part of what is available on YouTube when it comes to like my business. And now I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, what about like what do you do once you've launched and like how do you get to those
Yeah.
different places? And that is where like content dwindles. But I get it. Like not a lot of people even get to that point of
Mhm.
like launching. But then I'm like, I kind of want to make some content about how to get people to launch some stuff
Yeah.
because if people don't launch enough stuff, I'm like, you don't have your stuff doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
um, but so on the opposite end, or not opposite, they are complementary. On the complementary end, how important are marketing skills to your success in promoting like your passive income streams? Like, does being a good marketer versus like an excellent marketer, like, would that change your streams or your income?
So I think marketing, and I'll give you a couple of specific examples of what I mean from a content perspective. I think that is one of the biggest indicators in success with content. Now, I'll also say at the same time, I have no formal practice or background in marketing at all. I wouldn't
Mhm.
consider myself a marketer. If you put me in a room full of like people that actually do marketing, I wouldn't even know the language that they're speaking from acronyms and stuff. So just remember, like as a full-time content creator, it's my responsibility to try to learn enough of these things that I can get by. But I look at like the success of any channel, any TikTok channel, YouTube channel, people on Twitter, they're learning how to make informed decisions about what people respond to, for better or for worse. Like you could argue people gamify Twitter, they gamify YouTube, they do whatever to gamify it, and there's mixed opinions on it. But the idea of marketing really in this case for content is like paying attention to what are the small things that I can tweak to get the better response and more visibility for the stuff that I do. And we also have this like debate about like your number one target shouldn't be like numbers of viewers and subscribers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But also it's a lot more fun when you see a million people watch a video versus 50. Like there's a reason that that is valuable in addition to just the money. Like it feels good to have more people responding to the content that you create.
Mhm.
So you hear a lot like with YouTube specifically, things that I feel like I'm not that good at, and if I were better would make a significant impact on my channel, is how to create compelling titles that like have it like borders the line with clickbait. And I played around with this and I've done different things. Like it borders clickbait, but I think it has to provide the value that's promised. So figuring out how to like package that message of a title to leave a little bit of suspense, to leave a little bit of you need, like you're gonna miss out if you don't watch this. Like that sort of stuff is incredibly valuable. The cover image, same sort of thing. How can you convey emotion? How can you convey urgency for people to feel like this is something that they need in their career or their learning experience? So I think the marketing aspect of that, kind of getting into YouTube specifically, of those smaller details play a tremendous role. Not something again I would consider myself a marketer. It's something I pay more and more attention to, but I think that that has a significant impact on like scalability of content.
How do you like improve these skills, would you say? Like what do you specifically do? Do you get courses? Do you just do it by watching more YouTube videos and trying to try to replicate it? Like what is your process for improving this skill?
There's one of the big things I've talked about is, especially early on for content creators, is just to create more. And by creating more, you pay attention to what do people respond to. You get better at recognizing things yourself, like in editing or recording, and you improve your process, etc. So I think a lot of it is like repetition. Like
Mhm.
you're just not going to be as good the first video as your 500th video, right? Like you're going to be a very different content creator after 500 videos. So I think that's huge. Um, I I want to do more of this, but I do try to do research of like, here's channels that are taking off now. Here's videos that are taking off now. What are the topics? How is it packaged? What does the metadata look like? What sort of hook do they have at the beginning of the video? And I'm at a point now, full transparency, like my YouTube numbers are very far down from what they were a year ago. Like
Mhm.
frustratingly, and like makes me really sad. But the perspective I have to keep is like, okay, like I have more experimenting and learning to do, so I need to go out and do more research and experiment more with the things I do and pay really fine attention to what impact do these tweaks have on the
Mhm.
content and the visibility and the reactions and all these sort of things, while also maintaining providing the value in the video that's promised. So a lot of mine is just trying to learn and imitate like what's going on around me.
Yeah, and I've talked to so many YouTube creators, and you are not alone in what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And, as someone who does TikTok, it's the same thing on TikTok where, like,
Mhm.
people who've previously done well, it's, like, just not the
Not
same
necessarily the
place.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same place, they don't really prioritize people who have been continuously making c content that people like, and even from a user perspective, I'm like, "Where is this person? I follow this person, I want to see their content," and then I guess maybe they're trying to force us to start using the following tab versus the For You page, or
Mhm.
I don't know, but it has been frustrating.
That is,
Yeah.
if I can add one more thing on
Mhm.
YouTube specifically. So, a hack that or a privilege that I have access to is there's a programming YouTubers Discord. And so what this is YouTubers from 100 subscribers to literally like 2, 3 million in the tech space. And they're so open and share ideas and things that are working from them. So that's one of the things that I can leverage more specifically is like being a part of those conversations, but just paying attention to there. And we have like mastermind chats once a month. I haven't been in a couple months, but it's so good to just have an open conversation with people about what's working. So that's been really helpful for me too.
Okay. I might have to relay that information to the other
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
other, creators that I've talked to.
Please do. Have them feel free to like tell them to just reach out to me and I can send it out. So right
Okay.
now for Christy's asking for a link. So this is a closed group, has to be approved. It's not a exclusive group. Just want to make sure that people are actually like mainly just being active on YouTube. So the one like firm requirement right now is having created at least a video a month for the past 6 months, I think. So if anyone feels like they fit that criteria, send me a message and I can submit for approval into the Discord.
Okay.
And there's been a couple of comments I actually wanted to ask you
Mhm.
first, if you don't mind,
For
about
sure.
sponsorship opportunities or other opportunities. Gooseman is asking, have all of your opportunities come from companies reaching out to you? Do you reach out to them? And how do you position your value proposition? And I think there was a similar question before about like, how do you get, like, do people reach out to you for stuff? So, on any of your platforms, like, do you do sponsored content as well? And is that something that people reach out to you for? Do people reach out for collaborations or anything like that?
I've gotten, like, a tea here and there, but,
Nice.
nothing crazy, but I think it's because my social media is primarily about
Mhm.
um, my games, and
Yeah, true.
so I don't really I think if I, like, paid attention a little bit more and, like, I could probably do a little bit more with the followings that I have, but personally,
Mhm.
like, I haven't really done much in terms of income when it comes to any of my, like, content creation. All of my income has been just from promoting the game,
Mm.
and, like, every time I have a TikTok video that goes viral, either made by me or someone else,
You make more
I
money.
get yeah, there was
Yeah.
a time, speaking of, like, passive income, I got COVID last year after going to GDC, Game Developer Conference,
Mm.
and, at the time, my game was also going viral for some reason, and a reason that I did not contribute to, and, when I was quarantined for 2 weeks, I made, like, 10 grand.
Nice. I
Just
love it. That's amazing.
yeah,
That's so
just
good.
sitting there, like,
Mhm.
not being able to breathe.
Mhm.
And like when I check at the end and when I'm like, okay, I can finally read and look at something, and I look at it and I was just like, oh my God, what happened?
Mhm.
So very nice to have.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that reminds me of kind of a similar idea for me with passive income. So we've got a baby coming in May. I plan on working like I'm very strict about like I probably don't even work 40 hours. If I actually tracked it, it's probably in like the 30 to 35 hours a week. Like that's my typical schedule on my own. And my plan is to like work even less, especially around like the first month or so, and then we'll see. Like I have no idea what to expect, so we'll find out. But what I can do is I can like pre-record a bunch of YouTube videos, have them scheduled to go out once a week, not have to do any manual work for that. And I don't think I'll quite get here by the time baby comes, but one of the things that's convenient about the timing of the course that I'm starting to work on is in theory, if I released it around the time that baby comes, I put in the hours to like maintain it and answer questions, etc., but not anything more than that. And income and hopefully more than what my regular income would have been over that time. So that's
Mhm.
another one of the benefits of like strategically targeting like I'm going to be out or I have this big thing or whatever it is over the course of a few months.
I've talked to some creators that don't do courses,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh, I'm not fully monetized." They make the majority of their income from sponsorships, and then obviously like the couple hundred to 1,000 from AdSense for
Mhm.
the month. But there are some that because they have courses, they're basically running ads.
Mm.
Like if you
Yeah.
have a YouTube channel, they're basically ads, and a lot of
Yes.
the time the videos will convert people to the courses.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was just listening to a personal finance podcast with this girl that does like art tutorial videos and art tutorial courses, and she's already made like $1 million from it. She's like 24.
Love it. It's like that's I don't know. I get so excited for people to be able to like
Mhm.
build build their brand, build their product, whatever it is on their own and
Yeah.
make a shit ton of money from it. Like there's no better position to be in.
Yeah,
Um,
especially like an artist too. I'm like, I'm so happy
mhm,
that someone was able to like find that thing. And she was an art
yeah.
teacher, so yeah.
So here's another thing that I think like this is maybe a slightly dangerous teachers in general. Traditionally, like you look at memes and jokes, but also talk to teachers underpaid for like the value that they provide and
Mhm,
the fact that we like need teachers.
mhm,
There's this interesting perspective that I have where I look at like, okay, if you're a really good teacher, you kind of hit a wall as a teacher, right? Like you could go to maybe a nicer school, you maybe make a little bit more money, but there's like
mhm,
unfortunately there's kind of the ceiling. But when people start getting creative with leveraging content around that, like selling a course, getting a TikTok that's like, here's my teacher advice or like whatever, like you have this opportunity to go beyond what seems like that perceived limitation. It's not easy. It's not like everyone's thing, but that's what I love so much about content is you have the ability to take something that is not historically like a super well paying job and
mhm.
turn that into something like game changing for yourself, your family, etc. So that's such a cool story to hear about like teacher to content creator, course creator, and and a millionaire at that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, and, it's I love, I was always kind of, like, into this idea for the past couple years, but now that I'm doing it, it feels a lot more possible. So it is nice.
Hmm.
But, like, the biggest thing that I've learned is the differentiator in success is marketing, like,
Yeah.
totally. I had to take a class. I didn't even finish the class because honestly, it was outdated, but I learned enough from it to lead myself to TikTok and then realize how, because since I make mobile games, it just goes immediately from if someone sees it on TikTok, they go
They just go
immediately to
to it. Yeah.
download.
Okay.
Like, they go people will download my game before they follow me.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like,
I could see it.
they'll go
Yeah.
to my profile and then click the game and download it and won't even follow me.
I could definitely I could definitely see it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like leveraging platforms to promote something else, which
Mhm.
I think that's part of the power of any platform that you can build and something I recommend people think about from a marketing perspective. You have people here, here, here. How do you push those people to ultimately like something that you can have a deeper impact or a paid engagement with? So like thinking about this marketing funnel, if I'm working on a course, which I'm now starting to work on, the topic is Astro. I don't know if you've used or heard of Astro, but that's what I've been excited about. And I have Astro content in my backlog for YouTube. I refuse to publish that until I have my landing page for the course where I have a newsletter to sign up for updates and stuff, because I want to make sure that like if this video does really well, I'm sending that traffic to a place where I have something paid, or like I have a deeper engagement where I can follow up with them through email. And so,
Oh,
oh, go ahead.
that's like I was just
Yeah.
gonna I'm just reacting because it's such a huge, like, underrated thing. I think,
hmm
like, everyone has to experience once in their life losing their entire audience.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, it wasn't big, but I got kicked off Instagram. No idea why. And it was completely erased. Like mainly I just was mad that I lost images and stuff. But the reality
yeah.
is it can happen.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm such a big proponent for an email list,
hmm
like always converting people to an email list because at least like even if I lose my entire TikTok following, I still have
hmm
my core users still on email, which is great.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
have the ability to directly follow up with them. That's
Mhm.
one of the things with Udemy. If you do courses there, is they don't let you promote other things in the messages that you send to your audience there, which like in your own newsletter, you complete control over what you do.
Mhm.
Um, but I'll bring this back to you. How do you juggle content you make for free versus what you want to charge? My number one priority is consistency with free content. Like I think I can't just go and disappear from free content. So that would be primarily YouTube videos at least once a week, being active on Twitter. I don't have a super amazing cadence on TikTok, but I definitely pay attention there. And then I guess this comes back to that funnel, right? Like you want to be able to provide value for people in a way that they respond and watch and engage, et cetera, but then also funnel them to these other places where I do have the opportunity to collect an email or to do a paid course. And full transparency, you mentioned like sponsorship stuff earlier. A very high percentage of my income right now is sponsorships, and I'm making a really good amount of money, which is great. But I really want to shift that to make more money off of paid content because again, like something I completely like own myself, get complete control over. Not that I don't enjoy sponsored content because I really do actually, and I get exposed to a lot of different products that I may not have before. But I want to shift that more to paid content. So my personal goal is to look at kind of going deep in a topic or a framework or whatever about every 6 months, and the outcome of that be a course. So if I could release 2 medium-sized courses a year and drive income from that, that's kind of my goal for the foreseeable future.
Um, do we have a hard stop at the
I do not. I'm good to go if you are.
Okay, yeah, because there's a couple questions I really wanna get to.
Cool, yeah. I've got, let me make sure I've got this right. So I've got until 2, so I've got 30, like 25 more minutes if you're good.
Okay, awesome. I want to understand more about like the beginning part of when you started. So you were doing YouTube and content creation part-time and you had your full-time job, right?
Yep.
Um, I guess the first thing I want to understand is like how many hours did you have to dedicate for that?
Yeah, I was still working kind of like the average 40 hours a week. So that's been something again, like even working for a company is important for me is like having that pretty hard limit. And I think that like it doesn't even translate to a hard limit for me. It's just that like I enjoy so many things outside of my regular job that I don't want to sacrifice that. Like I want to go hang out with my wife, I want to play sports, I want to hang out with my dogs, friends, etc. So that's always kind of been an easier thing, easier thing for me to advocate for myself than maybe some other people. Um, but so in addition to that, I've never had a number of hours, which is not super helpful for this conversation. But what I will say is I would traditionally start like my workday at 9 and my wife would be up early. She started working from home. So we would kind of get like in the groove of being down at our desks at 7:30, like maybe 8. So on a fairly consistent basis, I was doing either 7 to 9 or 7:30 to 9 or 8 to 9, like maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours occasionally in the mornings before work. And that was the bulk of the time that I would put in, I think. Again, leading back to the limitation of like I had more requests for sponsored content that I could do because I just didn't put that much time in it. So I don't know what that equates to, like 10 to 15, like maybe 20 hours a week, which I doubt it was really that high. The 10 to 15 is probably more realistic, but I was just taking advantage of like being up anyway. And people have asked me a lot, like, how do you stay motivated with that? How did you come up with ideas and stuff? And the number one answer I always give is just like, I only did stuff I was excited about. So I never was in a position where I was like, all right, you need to wake up at 6 so you can grind this thing out. It was like, okay, like I'm here and I'm excited about this, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. So that was always kind of my mentality, is making sure that it was stuff I was excited about and not having to force myself to do things.
Mhm. Wow, so you were able to build the audience that you have right now just doing a couple hours before work, 5 days a week?
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like maybe I'm underestimating it. I don't think I am. Like 20 I think would definitely be the max in that range. But there's a few different things that contribute to this as a content creator specifically. One is I was a developer advocate during the last couple of years, which means all the things that I was doing personally, I was also doing the same type of things and getting paid for it, right? Like I was creating videos for our YouTube channels and I was doing live streams on Twitch. So the things that like I got better at doing on work time, I was then better at doing on my personal time and vice versa. And the other thing I would consider, or like have people consider, like maybe bringing up, is like if you want to be a blogger, if you want to be a YouTube creator, if you want to like whatever, see if there's a way that you can leverage time out of your job to support you doing that. Cuz here's the thing, like if I work at a company, especially if I'm in developer relations or I'm a developer advocate, but even if I say just an engineer, not from a demeaning of engineers, but from the perspective of like part of your role is not associated with your audience necessarily as much as it is people look at developer advocates that way. But if you think about it, like if you're an engineer, developer advocate, and you build this crazy huge audience in 6 months or whatever, no matter how disassociated that brand is from your company's still a part of your name. And so people, by virtue of that connection, are going to now be more aware of the company that you work for. It's not necessarily a sell that you can make all the time, but you can potentially have a conversation with your manager to say like, work on public speaking. Like I want to give talks at conferences. Can you support me in some way? Can you maybe pay for travel? Can I get time off without having to take vacation days? Can I get support for training? Can I have 2 hours a week to create a YouTube video and I'll do it on like technical topics that are relevant to the stuff we're doing here? Like, is there a way that you can get support from your company for them to help you grow as an individual, potentially with skills that like help influence how you do your job? But can you leverage that from a company? Because good companies can't give you everything, but investing in you should be part of their responsibility in addition to like just giving you a salary.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm like thinking if someone wanted to do a newsletter or if someone wanted to do um blogging, like actual typing blogging,
Mhm.
that they could probably go to their full-time job and ask for resources or even just like funding. Hey, I found this course online.
That's one of the things that I did a lot, especially at FedEx, where
Mhm.
I mean, I got a couple thousand, 2, 3, maybe $4,000 worth of like monetary investment in myself strictly from asking. Found a
Wow.
conference. I want to go to this conference. I found this course. I want to take this course. I found this training opportunity. I want to take this. And there was some for other people, and it wasn't because I was special. It was because I asked, and I asked a lot, and I don't think I crossed the annoying line, but maybe I did. But if you don't ask, like they're usually not going to go out of their way to just give you stuff. So that's one of
Yeah.
the things that I like highly encourage people to do. You never know how it's going to turn out. Just ask for support, whatever that may be.
That's so interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, but, that could totally be, like, a way for people to build their skills. Because 'cause I'm not a
Mhm.
great copywriter, but I want
Yeah.
to be so bad, like, I want to. But I there's a couple courses I found, but they're, like, $2,000 or something, and, like, I just don't have the time
Mhm.
at this moment to invest in it, but,
Yep.
yeah, it's just, like, yeah, that's something that I would ask for if I was working for someone right now.
Absolutely.
So it's like, "Oh, so I can write better documentation for all of us, right?"
Yeah. Well, and it like I think you definitely want to align it to something that makes sense for them, but there's also just managers and companies supporting people with goals in their career, right? Like if I don't know, if
Mhm,
you say your next step is management, them helping you be a manager doesn't benefit them from an from you as an engineer at that moment, right? That's just investing in you personally and having career conversations with you and seeing if there's training opportunities to support that. And I think that should be part of the conversation is like what are your goals and how can we help you get there within reason,
mhm.
obviously.
Um, so about if you were to recommend what you do to another engineer and say that they really wanted to do what you do, either that's content creation or course creation or
Mhm.
the combo of them, would you recommend people do it? And if so, like what advice would you give them like starting out?
Even if they didn't want to do that, I would recommend it for them. Like the impact of content creation is like I can't overstate the impact that content creation can have on you. I don't mean in terms of full-time content creator. I don't mean in terms of making a bunch of money on the side as a content creator. Obviously, that's a nice plus. But I've seen this story play out over and over again. For context, I've taught a few rounds of one in person and one virtual boot camp that starts out with like 150 students in each. And it's kind of a numbers game. So you get a bunch of people knowing that the drop off rate is like 60%. And so at the end, you graduate like 50, 60 people or whatever. And you see this story play out on Twitter all the time. You see it over and over again. The people who share, the people who engage and share during class, they ask questions, they engage with like the students, the professor, the TAs, and then they share. They get active on social media of some sort. Could be Twitter. They join a Discord. They go to meetups in person. The people who are engaged and active, to me, like I can't say they're always the most successful, but I always see those things having impact in their success and finding their first job and getting a promotion and all these things, etc. And so I look at like if you're super super famous, if you're the most famous person on any given topic, whatever it is, any company is going to hire you to do that thing, right? Like if millions of people follow you, you don't need to interview. Like they're like they want to see if you're an ass, but like other than that, you
Mhm,
have the credibility. So they're going to hire you and that's the exaggeration, but that's the like impact that just being active can have. So active could mean a lot of things. It could just mean like sharing what you do on Twitter. It could be having a blog, it could be TikTok, it could be YouTube, it could be Discord, it could be anything, but just being active and sharing helps you build a brand for yourself that I think is invaluable. And the thing that I tell a lot of people is I'm in a privileged position to be able to say this, but when I was let go from Planet Scale back in the summer, I didn't immediately know that I was going to do content full time. And so I posted on Twitter. I said, like, I don't know what's next for me, but if you're hiring for these two types of positions, send me a message. Again, a privileged position but also privileged from the work that I had put in, but privileged position for 100 people to send me DMs to say like, some of them said like, "Hey, we have a job opening if you want to apply." Most of them were worded in a way that was like, basically, "We'd like to hire you" type thing. Like, I'm sure there would have been process and all these things, but that was because of me like building my brand, building reputation through providing value for the community. And that was like the content was my big validator. Like, if you want to know if I can public speak, go and watch a million different YouTube videos and live streams that I've done. If you want to know how, if I can explain technical concepts to people, go and watch a million YouTube videos. If you want to all these things, like here's all this content and reputation that validates all of those things.
mhm,
And so again, that's kind of like varying degrees of scale and audience and stuff, but the impact that sharing for yourself can have on your career is like astronomical. And the only like going back to advice for people that are interested is just start off small, start off in a way that you can like maintain consistency, whatever that is. If it's like tweeting once a day to say, here's a code snippet that I'm working on, if it's a blog post a week, a video a week, whatever it is, start off small. Don't overthink it and get into that cadence, that habit of sharing stuff, and then continue to refine and maybe invest more time in it as you go along.
mhm. Oh, so what would you tell similarly, what would you tell, yourself when you first started out? Like, is there anything that any tips you would give yourself, the 2 years ago version of yourself?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I could say is like this will have an impact.
Okay.
Like I think it's hard. Like I said earlier, it's much different. It's much more rewarding when a million people watch a video versus 50, right? Like there's nothing wrong with saying I want more people to see my content as long as it's still providing value.
Mhm.
And I guess the piece of advice I would say is like the consistency will have an impact. Like that will make a big difference because I would see other people have like really big spikes in YouTube growth, for example, and me not have that and really question, am I not as good at this? Am I not whatever? But the consistency I think really does have the impact. And at the end of the day, if I never got to the point where I did content creation full time, it still would have had all of those other benefits in my career of having a brand and reputation, even if it was much, much smaller, that could have impacts on interviews or opportunities or
Uh-oh. Is it cutting out?
oh, am I
Oh, there it
still
goes. Oh, no, it was
okay.
it's probably on my end.
Okay.
It just the last, like, 5 seconds. But, like, what were how long did it take from your very first YouTube video to now?
First YouTube video was in 2014. So it's been a long time. Um when did I start taking it seriously again and consistently was probably in 2017.
Mhm.
So you think about like people see like I'm going full-time content. They're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like you did that. And I don't know, they think it's an overnight success thing. And that's typically very far from the truth. And you see that with like products that become popular. You see it with musicians that become popular, like everything that you could think of that like all of a sudden you've heard of that thing or that person has probably been around and doing that thing for several years working towards that moment and many different moments in their career.
Yeah. I mean, I guess even for myself, the Boba Bria TikTok that blew up, it got really big really quickly, and there was a lot of success, and I have had a lot of success with this game, and it's only my 3rd game I've ever made
Mhm.
and or that I've ever launched, and, I just started in 2020, and for the most part, I think, like, a lot of people who've been in the industry a long time might be like, "Who the heck is this
Mhm.
girl?" Like,
Yep.
but at the same time, like, I have put in the hours for the
Yep.
past 12 or 13 years now of like getting good at product or getting good at like trying to get people to download something or being a good engineer or trying to be a better engineer and like
Mhm.
being good at learning.
Yep.
I would say that all of those are probably the years that people don't see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
um
We rarely give enough credit to that sort of stuff behind the scenes when
yeah.
we look at surface level of what people are doing.
Yeah. Do you experience burnout?
I don't think I've experienced burnout to the extent that a lot of people experience
Mhm.
burnout. And I think some of it is my personality. Like my wife and I differ on this. Like if I have something that I need to do and I don't feel like it, I don't do it because it's like not the end of the world versus a lot of people have a really hard time letting go. And I'm not saying like my way is better than others. There's like advantages for both of those in different situations because I'm also one of the people that like I do a project 90%. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this. I'm done. And then I never do a 100% done project. You know what I mean? Versus other people who do. So I think I've experienced smaller forms of burnout, but the thing I kind of go back to for myself is just making sure that for anything that I do, I'm excited about it. And I think sometimes, occasionally, at a sponsored video where the more I dive into a product, it's like it's not as easy as an onboarding experience, for example. And those are tough situations where that is something I know I need to do, but I have to do more than I expected to get the job done. Those are definitely difficult at times. But I don't want to undersell or like devalue the fact that like much bigger, more serious burnout is a very common thing that I don't think I've quite experienced at that level. But I try to focus on again work life and making things outside of this on a consistent basis, and then also prioritizing. I should be excited about the things that I'm doing, or I just shouldn't be doing them.
Mhm.
Have you had any like big burnout moments for yourself?
Yes. Um, my advice to anyone whenever they wanna start TikTok is to post every single day, honestly, twice a day for, like, 2 months. Like, just go ham with it,
Mhm.
and then you can start, like, really seeing you can loosen up on the schedule a bit. For the most part, it works if you know how to tailor your content, and I have done that, and it worked out, and I end up just doing, like, bursts of TikToks and then, like, months of breaks. And I think it's mostly because I set, like, arbitrary deadlines for myself when it comes to launching updates for the game. Just sometimes I do like working. I think that's the other thing. I do really like working.
Mhm.
And before the past few months, um, I would just go 2 weeks at a time, no breaks,
Mm.
and it would eventually just turn
Catch
into
up to
me
you.
being like, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though I would have the times here and there to spend time with family or to
Mhm.
rest, I wasn't resting in the way that I needed to, or
Yeah.
like my brain needed to be turned off, or like my I was trying to solve this same hard problem for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Then for some reason we just take a day of break, you come back to it and then, oh,
Right.
yeah.
Just the step away type thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I think again of working for yourself means if you're able to make that decision for yourself, like you could just not work and you don't have to take a day. And my wife makes fun of me days and I'll just have one of those days where I sit around and watch Netflix all day. Like that's just what
Mm.
I need on that day is just not doing almost anything. Um,
I need one of those
much as you
coming up
can.
soon.
Yeah.
I need one of those.
Yep. Um, question from Brad in the chat. Do
Mhm.
both of you have shops or resell e-commerce things? That's actually one of my goals is to do not necessarily to generate income, but just to have swag. Because I think from a branding perspective, it's fun, like t-shirts and hats and stuff. Do you have like e-commerce stuff outside of the games?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to keep track of everything, it
Hmm.
being just me,
Yeah.
but, it's definitely on the roadmap. There will eventually be some kind of merch, physical merch or digital merch, like, people like wallpapers and things like that, so, yeah, so there will be, but there is
Hmm.
not yet.
Yeah. I feel like your stuff would be very brandable. I feel like that it would make for like really good merch when
Yeah, eventually I thought of having characters with, like, or plushes where they
Mhm.
have drinks that
Oh, like swap
you can
out?
swap. Yeah, you can,
Yeah,
like, swap their drinks out or something.
that's super cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Are
Um,
there any other questions? I finished all of my passive income ones.
yeah, the comment from Eli in the chat of, "Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for coming in and sharing your story. You've inspired me to quit my job and do game dev."
Oh,
Sold.
no.
Sold. Um, there was a question on Twitter from Martina, who is a colleague of my wife's that, I think my, like, Wi-Fi is not as good where I am. I need to go back in my office, so I apologize if I'm cutting out, but, Martina asked, "How do you actually get paid, monthly or per quarter?" Most of my stuff is on invoices, which is kinda hit or miss with companies of, like, how timely that is. For you, do you is it like a monthly payout for games? How does that work for you?
Yes, it's monthly. I do not have in-app purchases yet, which is not a good thing,
Mm.
but I launched the game in a state that I was just seeing if people liked it,
Mhm.
and I had a few ads, and right now I'm spending a little bit more time on monetization, but I do get paid from just ads once a month.
Cool.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and last year we crossed 6 figures, which is nice.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
isn't that, like, ridiculously cool to say?
It
How
feels really good.
amazing. Yeah.
It obviously, it's nowhere near my what I used to make, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's like, "Oh my god, something's working." I made
Mhm.
$0 and then $20,000, and then now, like, over 100,000, and then I'm like, oh my god, can I keep going?
That's again, like that's what I think the beauty of it is like there's no limit to how much you can scale that, right? Like you can literally make millions with the stuff that you're doing right now. And it's a process, but like that's the potential and that's super inspiring.
I feel like a lot of things are just if you don't quit. Well, you
Yeah.
obviously you have to be strategic, and I feel like quitting all the time. Like it's so tempting, but I do listen to quite a few podcasts, and I think it's a unique situation being from tech specifically, where like you for the most part have really good salaries and benefits and
Mhm.
all these things, so there's always this allure of this thing I'm doing is so hard. Why don't I just go do the thing that
Go
I know
fast.
how to
Yeah.
do, right? And I heard a podcast from, I believe her name is Jessica Livingston. She helped start Y Combinator,
Okay.
and she said that a lot of the issues that she found with founders that come from Google or Facebook or something, a FANG company, is that they're always allured to go back. They want to quit because they want to go
Yeah.
back to making the money they used to. So I was like, ooh, drag
I
me.
know. Yeah. It's like, oh, it hits personally. That
Yeah.
is, it's hard. Like that's a challenge, especially I think it, especially with bigger companies like that. It goes a lot beyond just the salary too. Like the stock options or grants or like whatever it becomes and how that can layer on and how
Mhm,
people end up like staying for a long time, right? Because you have X number of shares of stock to vest over the course of 4 years or whatever. That sort of
mhm,
stuff makes a really big difference in order to leave. But I think again that goes back to like calculated risk. Like I'm making this calculated decision to like I think that this balance of what I can get, what I am getting, and like knowing that I have complete ownership of this and I work for myself and all those things, that's the trade-off. And that's what I'm willing to do. And if that changes, like that's great too. Like at least you gave it a shot. That was my biggest thing was I knew if I never did this at some point, I would always regret it. I may fail, I may not make any money, like whatever the outcome,
mhm.
whatever. But like if I didn't give myself a chance, I would always wonder what I was capable of had I done it.
Yeah, and what I love about this conversation is that I don't hear anything from either of us or anyone that I've talked to so far that is like, "Oh, we are anomalies," or anything. Like, we are just like all our other
Yeah.
coworkers, you know what I mean?
There's like I don't know, sometimes I go back and forth because I get really confident in myself sometimes, and I walk in with a lot of confidence, but, like,
Mm.
I'm just another person. Like, there's so many of these stories, and there's so much of, like, I didn't know any of the things that I'm doing now, it's just stuff that I learned, and you didn't know anything about game development or, like, basically nothing,
Yeah,
and then you
anything,
went out there and built a six-figure business around it. So yeah, I think that's super important.
yeah, it's like while passive income isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, I still feel like it is a thing that people can do,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not this, "Oh, this is gonna be so, so, so hard." It is hard, like, but
Mhm.
also working and having to choose vacation days, like, what
Yeah.
vacation days you can spend with your family, that is also hard, so you have
Yeah.
to kinda choose which hard that you want,
Right.
so,
Everything's all about trade-offs.
yeah.
Um, Maybe one last question. I need to wrap up because I've actually I semi
Okay,
forgot, but I have a panel coming up.
okay.
Um, Brad is saying you have to save money if the income dips, right? So 1 month you make 10K, next month one, etc.
Mhm.
Um, Full transparency, I'm like six figures, probably at like 100K ahead right now. So like after I pay taxes for last year, I've got 100K in the bank that I've made that I'm like sitting on and I don't plan on not making money over the next however many months, but if I didn't make any money, I've got that to lean back on, which is really nice. So I definitely have like savings leading into that, but still plan on making money in the meantime.
Mhm. I do have dips, but I try not to plan around my, I actually plan financially around my dips rather than my highs.
Yeah.
So it's just leftover money. I think the
Yep.
most I've made in a month is maybe 22,000,
Hmm.
and that's still with like a beta version game. So hopefully by the time the game is like fully launched by this
Yeah.
year, it'll go up. But Yeah, there are dips, but the floor goes up all the time. It's
Continues to go up.
always it's
Yeah.
yeah, the floor continues to go up.
Yep. I am planning on that financially for like your household and stuff. I think that's a
Mhm.
great way to go because then you can make decisions about what to do with extra. Say you can save more, you can go have fun more. Like you can do that too if you have a really good month, and that I think is part of what we should do. Like I'm historically super cheap, and sometimes I just need to relax and spend more money, and sometimes I do because I want to enjoy life. So
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, cool.
Well, thanks for joining. I'm glad you reached out to chat in general, and then we're comfortable like coming in and doing this live for other people to listen in and watch.
Yeah, I'm so happy I got all of these answers. I can't wait to like synthesize all of the stuff that I'm putting together. I'm actually, after we talked earlier, I'm super inspired to do one of these with the woman I was talking to you about with a newsletter that
Yeah.
she lives off completely. But she's married, but still like
Mhm.
she's been able to not have to go back to work because of her newsletters.
So
So
cool.
yeah,
So good.
I'll share numbers with you once I talk to more people.
Yeah. If you do any of those live or anything, I'd love to like tune in and listen and learn from them as well.
Cool. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Thanks everyone. Chat has been great. Thanks for questions and comments and all that sort of stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and end it, but catch you all later.